can't imagine what was going on in the minds of the people inside that medical office. Sheldon Ingram, you've just been down to the situation where this may have begun. Tell us what you learned.
It's an apartment building on Wood Street, Scott, and the Woodview Apartments. And what I've spoken to several people there, people who live in this apartment building, as well as the building manager and some of the employees. And basically what we know at this point from these people is that this guy, Robert Taylor.
That's the first time that we've heard a name, actually.
Yeah, his name is Robert Taylor, and this was confirmed through the building manager of the Woodview Apartments. Basically what happened was he woke up angry this morning. Maintenance workers weren't working fast enough in repairing the door to his apartment.
How many units are in that facility?
I say roughly 12 to 16 units in this apartment building. From what I'm told, he was very upset at maintenance workers because they weren't repairing his door fast enough. Got into a verbal confrontation with the maintenance workers, called the rental office, was belligerent on the telephone with the building manager, and then when he hung up the telephone from the building manager, the next news that everyone heard was that the building was on fire. Right. Now, prior to that, I spoke to a maintenance worker, one of the maintenance workers that Taylor confronted. Basically what happened was that there were two more maintenance workers right in front of his apartment. He shot one in the neck and then set the apartment on fire. He also threatened a third maintenance worker, the one that I spoke with. After he shot this maintenance worker in the neck, that's when he fled the apartment building, made his way towards the McDonald's area, and then started to
set the place on fire, leaving the wounded victim
exactly
there.
And right now, we don't know the condition of this maintenance worker. He was shot in the neck at point-blank range, which is what I was told by another maintenance worker.
Oh, man. So the situation, we now at least have a name that may possibly be involved, Robert Taylor.
Robert Taylor.
This young man, perhaps in his 20s?
Late 30s.
Late 30s.
He's late 30s. And I spoke with a couple of his neighboring tenants inside the apartment building. He was known as a disgruntled person. Right. Was very upset when kids were running through the hallways, visiting in the apartment building. Was not a very friendly person. Didn't say much to his neighbors at all. Very belligerent. Apparently, this is the second time he damaged his door. They were repairing his door that he damaged.
He may have damaged his own door.
He damaged his own door, and the building manager told me that he damaged this door prior to this incident. Right. So apparently he has some problems.
We do know that the brother and his sister are being brought to the scene to perhaps, once they establish contact, we don't believe that they've had actual contact with him yet, to try and maybe calm him down and relieve the situation. But what in the fire that was then set, if there were 10 or 12 other units, everybody else was okay in the facility?
Everyone was okay. Everyone was evacuated. I know for a fact that one of the neighbors on that floor in a neighboring apartment, there were two elderly women living in that apartment. They got out safely. Right. They heard the gunshots, saw smoke, and they evacuated.
And the maintenance worker that you talked to gave the account that he did go to the Burger King before he went to the McDonald's.
No, he didn't. They don't know the pattern.
Where he went
they just know the direction that he traveled, but they don't know the sequence of events.
And so the maintenance worker you saw actually saw him shoot this man in the neck?
No, the one I spoke with, I spoke with was threatened by Taylor. He said he was threatened. He said Taylor threatened to kill him. He went 2 doors down to work on another door when the shot rang out.
Heard the shot,
heard the shot, came back, and a third maintenance guy told him what happened.
I see. I understand. One of the things that we've been waiting to hear as we've been having information from different police sources is any official kind of word to the public, and we've been standing by waiting for the Wilkinsburg police chief to deal with this, and because it was obviously their officers, the Wilkinsburg Fire Department, that went to the scene there on Wood Street to respond to the fire, and obviously the Wilkinsburg police officers were the first on the scene, both at the McDonald's and then as it moved on to the Penn West building. So we should in just a moment be able to establish contact there. Let me ask you a little bit more. I don't know if you were able, in talking to the residents there, you said they described him as an angry person, someone easily disgruntled. We do know from that after whatever happened at the McDonald's in the parking lot, that he went into a woman's home, perhaps between the McDonald's and the Penn West building, popped up in her living room with a gun in hand, but told her that he didn't intend to shoot her because she was black, that he only intended to harm white people.
There's a very distinct pattern to what's going on here, Scott. Inside the apartment building, he was confronted he confronted two maintenance workers. One was black, one was white. He shot the white maintenance guy, left the black guy alone. When he went to McDonald's, I found this out, I went to McDonald's when I left the apartment building. When I went into McDonald's, a person who knows one of the shooting victims
Right.
was told by an eyewitness that he said, "Excuse me," to the black guy who was standing there and shot another white guy inside the McDonald's restaurant. So I don't know if he was intentionally going after white people in this shooting spree, but there's a pattern that's been established and that people are picking up on.
And again, it would seem, as I was remarking, we often have in these kind of situations eyewitness accounts that vary widely, but so far in the last 2 hours there seems to be a real unanimity about what people have heard and what they've seen, and there's not been a lot of disagreement. We do, Sheldon, just have some video that we want to go to now, and thank you for giving us this insight about the gunman, whose name we now may know to be Robert Taylor. This is tape of the people who were perhaps the scene that we were most actively waiting for, the children coming out of the daycare center that operates in the Wilkins house. 50, 60 kids who may have been inside, and obviously just the heartbreaking scene of the little kids, some hands in the air. We do believe the children were taken to the Wimco Metals building on Penn Avenue to be evaluated. After the evacuation, parents reconnecting with them there. Our Paul Van Osdol is down now live where we are expecting to hear from the Wilkinsburg police chief. Let's talk to Paul. We have not talked to you yet in this process. I know you've been gathering a lot of information. What can you tell us?
Well, basically what we know right now is Police Chief Gerald Brewer of Wilkinsburg just held a news conference. He confirmed that there were 4 people shot, did not give any details as to the nature of the injuries, whether the condition of the victims, I should say. He also said the suspect did shoot at police officers from Wilkinsburg as he was trying to evade them, and the police were not hit, though. The police, there was no reports of any officers down or anything like that. And he did confirm that the children, many of the children at that daycare center, as we saw, had been evacuated, and that many of the other folks who were in the other buildings that were affected by this were also evacuated. It was a very brief, very terse news conference. There obviously there's a lot of unanswered questions right now, and the police chief did not answer questions. However, he did say there would be another briefing in about an hour in order to clear up some of these issues. And so all he was able to do was confirm that there were 4 people shot at this point.
Well, he is talking about 4, and we know that there are 5 people that have been taken to the hospitals. Could it be that one of those people may have been the maintenance worker that Sheldon was talking about in the original scene where this started on Wood Street?
Yeah, Scott, that's very possible, because he did confirm that everything did start at Wood Street at those apartments, and that it proceeded there to the Burger King and the McDonald's, and that's where, of course, the chase ensued. The officers gave chase to the suspect, but he did not confirm any more information about the name of the suspect or anything like that. So as you say, we're still sort of in the dark as to what that 5th victim is all about.
And Paul, I may be able to flesh out some of this because we have just learned the Associated Press is reporting that one of these 5 shooting victims has died. We don't know if it is the person who was taken to Mercy or one of the 4 taken to Presby. But all had been listed in critical condition. Sheldon's account had been that a maintenance worker at the apartment on Wood Street was shot by this man, shot through the neck. We knew that a 65-year-old man had been in critical condition. Did the police chief address it all? And I'll ask this, and then we're going to have to go away to Nina Pineda. In fact, Paul, I'm going to go to Nina Pineda right now to get some of the latest information that she has. We'll come back to Paul in just a second. Nina, what are you learning there?
Scott, we're standing here with Lieutenant Steve Starsich with the Pittsburgh Police. He has been assigned to work the perimeter outside the command post area. Lieutenant, what can you tell us about the danger to the rest of the community as you try to seal off this area?
Okay, right now we're concerned with people coming to pick up their children from the child care center, and also anybody trying to check on people that they feel are working in this area. We ask right now that everybody stay away from this area until we secure it.
Lieutenant, I understand that the gunman still may be inside. We've been still asked to crouch down behind this vehicle, and it seems like some of the people have been cleared from the area. Is there still a danger? Do you still think the gunman is in the building?
Yes, the gunman is definitely in the building, and he's still armed, and that's why we want people to stay away from this area.
Have you been able to establish any contact with him? I know that they brought some of his relatives here. Are they speaking to him now?
I believe the police officers are speaking to him as we stand here.
We are hearing actually at the station, officer, we are on the perimeter, so they don't know with the command center that he may be in custody. Are you hearing that on your radio yet?
As far as I know, he's not in custody at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Steve Starsich, giving us an update here from from the perimeter. We'll throw it back to you, Scott.
And Nina, that could be a situation certainly in flux, and it was certainly our first report that there had been actually direct contact from the police with the gunman. A man that Sheldon Ingram is reporting his name from neighbors to be Robert Taylor, a man who lived in the Woodview apartments along
Scott,
Wood Street.
He's in they are saying that he is in custody right now.
He is now in custody. The gunman who has held Wilkinsburg in this situation, a terrifying situation now for 2.5 hours, you're saying is in custody. Have we seen him come out?
Scott, we are moving around right now because the lieutenant we were interviewing did get a radio call on his radio that this suspect was in custody, so the cameraman is trying to get a vantage point.
Okay.
We do see some SWAT team members running towards the building.
Okay, Nina, hold right there. I'm going to switch to Sean Yancey on the phone. We're also going to take the Sky 4 shot for perspective. And Sean, you've learned the details of the apprehension.
That's right. We were just talking to police right now. They tell us that the suspect is in custody. We're not sure if there was any resistance, but we know he is in custody. He is alive, unhurt from what we know so far from police. They're getting ready to bring him out of the southwest end of the Wilkins House to the Penn West building right now. That's all we have confirmed so far, Scott.
Do you know if it did help the bringing of the brother and sister to the scene? Did it seem that contact with relatives may have helped bring this to an end?
You know, Scott, from what I'm hearing, I'm not even sure if the brother and sister had even made contact with him. No, they are here. They are here, but I'm not even sure if they even made contact with him. So we're not exactly sure the details of how police were able to apprehend him, but we do know he is in custody.
You may not be able to help me here, but I'm looking at a Sky 4 shot that is looking down at the entrance where we've seen so many officers go in. And we do now see a man coming out, and it appears, let's go back to that Sky 4 shot, Brian, if we can.
That is probably
and they are
the
bringing
exact
a man
area.
in a white shirt, and they're just putting him now into a police vehicle, and he had his hands behind his back, so clearly this may be the suspect in this series of shootings that has sent 5 people to the hospital. The Associated Press reporting that 1 person is dead. But if there is any consolation that is going to be available at this moment to the people who live and work in that area, it is that the gunman, who may have had that single bullet left unused, is now in custody, and so there can be some relief even as there is the process of dealing with the grief of what has gone on at the Penn West building. And I'm not sure, again, the question I was going to have for Sean before we lost her phone is if this is an entrance off of the Wilkins house or off of the Penn West medical facility. If you are just joining us, this has been an agonizing 2.5 hours for the folks along this stretch of Wilkinsburg along Penn Avenue. We've seen shootings and fire and hostages taken, and anguished parents waiting, ambulances racing from the scene, in just a terrifying situation that does now, here now, 2.5 hours after it began, seem to have resolved with a gunman in custody. Again, this is going to be a long process of sorting through exactly what went on. But let's go back to Jim Parsons, who has been stationed right across from the facility for now more than 2 hours. Jim.
Well, Scott, we just watched, as you did, we just watched the suspect come out of the building and be taken away by Pittsburgh police. We want to ask Lieutenant Starsich right here if he can just spare us a moment.
Where's it at? West Street, down 400 block of West Street.
Okay. Lieutenant, now that the situation's over, can you tell us what precipitated this gunman coming out here? What was all involved in that?
Again, I really can't tell you. I wasn't involved with the interior SWAT units, and you would have to talk to them a little bit later.
Okay, but we know that the gunman is in custody. Since he was being put into a police car or a police unit, not an ambulance, obviously, he was not injured?
I would assume that. Again, Wilkinsburg and the borough's Allegheny County Police would be handling this detail, so they could probably better answer your question.
Jim, we're watching the police car driving the suspect away. Can you ask the officer to confirm the identity, the identity that Sheldon Ingram gave us as Robert Taylor?
Can you confirm the identity as Robert Taylor of the individual? Is that what you heard as a description?
No, I heard a couple different names, so I'm not sure who it is.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe they have an information station set up on South Street.
Right, and we've been over there.
Able to give you that.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I have to say, though, Scott, that
what was told to Sheldon, I also heard on the scene here as well, that the gentleman's name was Robert Taylor. He may have gone by the name of Dante.
Dante was the name that you had used earlier in this process. And I don't know if you heard Sheldon's full report of this man, if it is Robert Taylor, being angry, upset about maintenance work at his apartment and shooting one of the maintenance workers.
I'm seeing City Council President Bob O'Connor on the scene as well. Of course, this is in Wilkinsburg, not in the city of Pittsburgh, but O'Connor being council president and Pittsburgh police having such a presence here, O'Connor obviously saw fit to come on down.
Yeah, that police car has stopped jurisdiction clearly, and I don't know how this will play out, but obviously Wilkinsburg police might take him into custody and to their facility.
It most definitely will be Wilkinsburg police. They're handling the investigation. I think Lieutenant Starsich from Pittsburgh police just made that very clear. It is Wilkinsburg police's case. They'll do the investigation. They will take him into custody. Of course, after they get done questioning this individual, he'll be in the custody of the
and perhaps a change of plans. The car containing the suspect just did a complete 180-degree turn and is now headed the other way. And so we're not sure exactly where they are going at this moment.
Not sure. Scott, we have City Council President Bob O'Connor who's heading our way if you'd care to hear from him.
Yeah, we would once you have Council President O'Connor with you.
Okay. Bob, good to see you. Yeah, tell us why you're here and what you know about Pittsburgh police involvement in this and the end of the situation.
Well, we were called in. I neighbor this district. I'm the president of council. I was very concerned. I was in the command post with the officers to see the cooperation. What happened? Unfortunately, this gentleman, the actor, went in. The manager of McDonald's evidently was his landlord. He went in and was upset about something minor, which I understand. He went in, shot him, a couple people in McDonald's, and escaped into this hospital. Fortunately, they sealed the area off. They had him confined and then evacuated. There were 37 kids in an adjoining building, nursery school kids. They're all out safe. Officer Fisher from the city of Pittsburgh talked him into giving up. So he surrendered. We just put him in a police car. He's on his way to Wilkinsburg Police Station.
Officer Fisher is one of Pittsburgh Police Department's negotiators?
Yeah.
Okay, Bob, you mentioned that this is in your district. I believe we're in Wilkinsburg.
Borders. I border. Regent Square is right next to it.
So do you know whether or not Wilkinsburg police, from what we've been told by Pittsburgh police, Wilkinsburg police will handle it from here on?
Yes, they put him in a Wilkinsburg police car. Everybody was back up to support. You know, we had the 2 SWAT teams, the city, the county.
Bob, what precipitated, do you know, him surrendering here? I mean, you talk about Officer Fisher coming down and talking to him. Did he do that personally, through a window, by telephone? Did he involve the brother and sister of the gunman?
I believe they had him on the phone for about the last 20 minutes. That was a good sign.
Did the fact that his relatives were brought down here, did that assist in bringing him out?
I don't know. They just came down, but you know, it happened. It did happen very quickly, so that I think the officers, when you started positive speaking to them, I think they felt we had about an 80% chance then.
Tell us more about what you know about the manager at the McDonald's. What was the relationship between the gunman and him?
Again, it's secondhand knowledge, but
does it come from police, though?
Yeah, pretty good sources. I understand he owned the property where this person rented from him. He was disgruntled about something, and he came in, and that's what provoked it.
I see. So that would be the reason why he stopped at the McDonald's. Any idea why he stopped first at a Burger King?
Again, this is what I heard, and unfortunately, I'm hearing at least 3 possible dead.
Okay, Bob, are you talking to police officers who are telling you this information?
Yeah, actually, you know, we're in the command post. You know, again, everybody's talking. You know, so nothing's in concrete yet. So I went on. It's all unofficial what I've been hearing.
Okay. City Council President Bob O'Connor, thanks for coming down.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, try and get dry.
All right.
So obviously, Scott, as you mentioned, the involvement of Pittsburgh police, the proximity to the city of Pittsburgh is the reason why O'Connor's here now.
And obviously that filled in a few things. If he is hearing from police sources that the manager of the McDonald's was the owner of the property where Robert Taylor, if we can believe that is his name, resided.
Yeah, we're going to have to confirm that.
We don't know, but Council President Bob O'Connor saying that is what sources have been telling him. And it does mesh with the other accounts that we have of somebody being shot in the drive-through lane at the McDonald's, 2 people being shot inside the McDonald's, another in the parking lot. And then there's a report that the 5th victim may have been the 5th victim back by the Burger King, although we know that one of the maintenance workers was shot inside the building on Wood Street. So we do have some conflict in the AP reports with what we have heard from our reporters on the scene, and the only official confirmation right now, or at least the word from the Associated Press, is one person dead. The others we have been reporting in critical condition in this process.
And the other element to this story, Scott, which we have to report, is that we are hearing on the scene here, as Sheldon heard over on Wood Street, as Sean Yancey heard when she first arrived here, that there may have been racial undertones or overtones to this shooting, that once this gunman started going off, that he specifically targeted white targets, white victims, and actually told someone, I'm just shooting at white people today.
Jim, that is probably the most disconcerting part about this, and I will say we've gotten one piece of information just to make things officially here. Ronald Taylor is the name of the suspect, not Robert Taylor, as we reported earlier. Ronald Taylor, and again, and yes, that is exactly the situation, the scenario that witnesses have told us, both from Wood Street to the McDonald's to the home where he popped up in a living room onto the medical facility in the office there, that he was shooting at white people, that the two maintenance workers, one black, one white, he shot the white victim. Right. That even at the McDonald's, he asked one of a black person to step aside and then shot a white person. That he told the woman in her living room where he popped up that he was not going to hurt her because she was black, that he intended to hurt only white people, and that as he went to that medical facility and said that he had one bullet left and who would be the next victim, that he was not going to hurt the black woman that was there, even as he held a gun to the head of one of the nurses. Jim, we're going to get back to you as you're going to continue to talk to sources there. And again, we'll be trying to confirm what we heard there from Pittsburgh City Council President Bob O'Connor, who obviously doesn't have official jurisdiction over what happened in Wilkinsburg, although there were police officers, negotiators from the Pittsburgh Police Department on the scene there. But Bob O'Connor hearing from some of his sources that the manager of the McDonald's may have been the owner of the property where the gunman lived. Thank you, Jim, for standing by there. I believe that we have a tape of what we saw live on Sky 4 just a few minutes ago, right around 2 o'clock, as they brought the gunman out from this Penn West building right onto West Street, the man in the white shirt. A man that we believe to be Ronald Taylor in his late 30s, a resident of Wilkinsburg, a man who was frustrated, upset with maintenance workers, known to his neighbors. They describe him to us as someone angry, disgruntled, frequently, often, upset with children. A man who had damaged his door intentionally and damaged it again after it had been repaired, and was frustrated that maintenance workers were not getting to the job of repairing it. And that then in his anger with them, that a gun may have been drawn and one of those maintenance workers shot. And then as the situation moved on to the fast food places, the Burger King and the McDonald's, and then even 3 shots fired outside of the Penn West building, but it would seem by that point all of those hit were at the prior locations. A terrifying situation then played out over the last 90 minutes. Scott Stiller is in Sky 4, and we've been watching tape, Scott, of those moments as they brought him out and into the police car. But you on Sky 4 then followed the police car as it made its way, and it seemed like they were uncertain what to do at one point because they actually made a full 180-degree turn.
That's right, Scott. They did a couple of U-turns. I was actually getting confused where they were going because it's tough looking out the side of the chopper and looking through the viewfinder of the lens to try and stay with those guys. But yeah, they kind of took the long way around, that's for sure.
Where did they end up?
I believe they ended back up at the Wilkinsburg Municipal Building.
At the Wilkinsburg Municipal Building where the police headquarters is there. All right, thank you, Scott, for that, because it did seem to be a very serpentine path, and that may have been because of the roadways that were closed off, or perhaps just an attempt to avoid certain particular intersections. But Sky 4 is certainly giving you the picture. And this obviously being the least serious part about what we have to talk about, Scott, but you have a good vantage point of that. For people who have been in this onslaught here for the last 2.5 hours, does it look now that the suspect is in custody that any of these roadways are being reopened to traffic?
Nothing's been reopened right now, Scott. As you can see down by the McDonald's,
still shut down.
Penn Avenue is still closed. West is still closed as well, so it looks like they're going to keep this place shut down for a little while. If it changes, we'll let you know.
And Scott, I'm going to ask you one thing that we weren't able to do earlier, but maybe you can look toward it now. We've not yet, I believe, been able to get aerial shots of the Woodview apartments on West Street. And I wish I could tell you which part of West Street it is on, but there may be even still fire units along Wood Street. Wood Street would be on the eastern side of the railway overpass, a block away. So it would be not from the McDonald's, but coming kind of closer to the helicopter where it would be positioned now. So when we come back to you, I don't know if you'll be able to locate that, but that might help us to get some perspective, because I don't believe that we've had actual video of where this may began, the first shooting and the fire on Wood Street. Again, if you're just joining us, and it has been a tense 2 hours, 45 minutes now, and a terrible situation, at least resolved with the apprehension of the gunman here in the last 10 minutes or so, but a situation that began badly and got worse with at least 5 people shot, and we believe at least 1 person dead and others in critical condition. Jim Parsons has been our man who has been across the scene, posted there, as many of our other reporters have circled the scene. Jim, what have you learned here in the last few minutes?
Last few minutes, Scott, Sean Yancey, our reporter, has been talking to parents who were just moments ago. We watched them reunited with their children from the daycare center. Remember those striking pictures from about a half an hour ago, maybe longer, of the children from the daycare center coming out of the building and being taken over to a convenience store? Well, just moments ago, they were reunited with their parents. We hope to get you that tape here in just a few minutes. Sean is still talking with some of those parents at the moment. We talked just a moment ago with City Council President Bob O'Connor, who told us that it was the City of Pittsburgh police officer, Officer Fisher. We'd not been able to talk to him, but that he had direct one-on-one negotiations with the gunman and convinced him that the best course of action at this point, after all of this tragedy, the loss of life, that the 1 person we know about and the others who were injured, was to just give up. And that's what he did. We know that he had Officer Fisher had...
he's a professional negotiator, trained as a negotiator. He is a professional
negotiator. And that he had Ronald Taylor's brother and sister on the scene. Obviously, this was a person who, who obviously was having a very bad day today, and obviously, just snapped and started shooting people.
And has made it a nightmare for scores and scores of others. We do have some of that tape that you talked about, and they were just heartbreaking images of the kids as they've been brought out. We saw some of it live on Sky 4, some of it on tape as they were brought out, and from the daycare center, which is in Wilkins House, the building that is a part of the complex that includes Penn West. 50, 60 kids were told at some points, and it just tears your heart to the point you can hardly speak at times to see the little kids. And at the point when they came out live and the little girls had their hands in the air, it just made you understand the anguish that the parents were in. They took the kids over to the Wimco Metals building, which is right along there on Penn Avenue, and they checked them out. The doctors were there to make sure, and the medics were there to kind of make sure that they were all okay, dealing with the anxiety and the anguish, and certainly as the parents rushed to the scene, that they were able to have their fears put to rest. Some of the kids as little as 6 weeks, some up to 6 years old.
And Scott, we have Sean Yancey here. She's just hustling back from having spoken. Gary? Okay, she just come back from talking with some of those parents who have just been reunited with their children. Tell us what you saw, Sean.
Oh, Jim, a lot of happy faces, a lot of tears. Many of these parents, when they first heard about this, being a parent, I can understand they were afraid because they didn't know what was going to happen to their children. When they got the word that the suspect had been apprehended and their kids were okay, they were crying. There were tears of joy. I just watched a mom just minutes ago hugging her daughter. She said, she just wanted to get her arms around her baby and let her baby know her baby was okay. All the kids are okay, and parents are now taking their kids and going back home.
You have some videotape that we're going to be able to see here in a couple of minutes. What's that videotape going to show us?
It's just the parents. They were actually, police try to keep all the parents or the kids in the daycare center together. They were down at the Life Care Hospital, and when they got the word that the suspect had been apprehended, they walked the parents down here to the Metals building. Many of the kids were taken here to the Metals building to be evaluated after they had been evacuated from the building to make sure that they were okay. They brought many of these parents down here, about 20 or so parents down to pick up their kids.
We're told that the videotape, we're not going to be able to roll that at the moment, but you'll have plenty of videotape for us at 5 o'clock of those happy reunions. These parents had to be hoping for the best, but the worst had to be creeping into their thoughts as well.
Well, you're a parent. I mean, you can imagine what it would feel like if you got the word that your child was inside of a building and there was a gunman and the situation was just tense. So many of them didn't know what to expect. Fearful, but tonight grateful that their children are okay.
All right, we'll hear your full report tonight at 5 o'clock, Sean Yancey. Penn Hills police were just sitting on the scene. Just about every police department, well, there's 130 police departments in Allegheny County. They weren't all here, but trust me, there were at least a dozen police departments here, and a lot of great work we saw by police officers in a very tense situation. Crises bring out the best in a lot of folks, and we saw that in police officers here today.
And certainly, Jim, this was a law enforcement cooperation, really working at its best. We thank you for your coverage at the scene, and for our other reporters, Nina and Sean and Tonya and Bob and Ted, and certainly some of you in harm's way at different points, or at least very near to it. We appreciate that. The situation, as you've been watching, some of you may be just joining us here at the end, has not been a good one. Those parents that Sean talked about do indeed have relief tonight as they have their little ones, but for others this is going to be a night of sorrow. This is going to be a night of anguish, because there are 5 people that were shot at least. 1 we believe to be dead, others in critical condition at the hospitals, and perhaps people who were in the most disconcerting part of this, as we've said, may have been shot by an angry man with a gun, perhaps for no other reason than the color of their skin. And as we've watched the situation develop, we're going to try in the hours between now and our broadcast at 5 to sort out what did happen at the apartment on Wood Street, and what happened to the maintenance worker shot through the neck there. We'll try to find out what happened at the Burger King, what happened inside the McDonald's, and to the people that were shot there. Shot as the gunman asked a black person to step aside so he could shoot a white person. And to talk to the people who were inside the Penn West building when he came in and took hostages and pressed that gun to the head of one of the nurses, and the fear that was in their minds as he went into the back room with the doctor and the office manager. And obviously the concern for the people, not only the children in the daycare center, but those in the adult daycare center, those who needed care, those who needed the kind of consistency and tender compassion, and were instead thrown into a nightmare here this afternoon. But thankfully, despite the losses and the grief, an episode that has come to an end with the arrest of a suspect, a man we believed is Ronald Taylor, and we will of course be learning a lot more about him in the hours and days to come. We do appreciate your staying with us through a kind of a turbulent 2 hours of coverage here. Live coverage is again something that is not always easy to piece together, but hopefully we have been able to provide a good picture of what has gone on there, and our Action News teams will continue to do that this afternoon. We invite you to join us back here at 5 o'clock for our regular broadcast. We'll go back now to our regular programming. Conference we expected at this minute is not going to happen for perhaps another 10 minutes. So we're going to go back to regular programming, and we'll come back to that news conference as it gets underway.